Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Lighthouse Sessions. I'm really excited. I have my new friend, Boaz Gilad, with me. Boaz, welcome. Tell the audience a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Oh, of course. Well, thanks first of all, Jeff, for being here. And so I'm based in New York City. And what I do for a living, and it's a long path how I got there, which we might go into, but I'm a performance coach. So I work with individuals and with companies, a lot of companies, where I go in and I elevate their performance, either because they hit some kind of a plateau, or they're going through a crisis, a leadership crisis or technology crisis, and I'll walk them through the process of what does it take, and how can they develop themselves as a team and the tools, not just giving them kind of like a lecture, develop the tools to elevate the performance and be a top performer. And I have a book, I have a podcast, and all that stuff that comes with it. Yeah.
I love it. Well, let's pitch the book first. So, what's the book title?
Sure. So the book is called The Zenith Code. This is my second book, actually. My first book, because my background is in real estate. So I was a real estate developer for 20 years, ran a decent sized company. I mean, in any other world except for New York City, it's a big company, but in New York, nothing is big.
Right.
So it's a real nice sized company. I manage about $1 billion in real estate that we developed and took it public. So I ran a public company for a little bit over 7 years. And so my first book was about real estate and entrepreneurship. My second book, The Zenith Code, which is the one that I'm kind of like relying on right now, is just a very hands-on workbook, because people listen to my lectures, listen to my workshops, and said, okay, how do I do it at home? How do I bring it to my team? So I just sat down and basically took what we lead in the workshops and put it into exercises. And the idea is that it's kind of like a dry erase kind of book. So you do it, you can erase it, and you can do it again, et cetera, et cetera.
Love that. And totally random, but I once read that a lot of Japanese businessmen they want to learn business English, so a lot of books there are published with like they're waterproof because they read it in the bath. And
Mm.
I love the idea. Like for me, I like to write in a book or especially a workbook, but the problem is then I have a bunch of workbooks where I buy the second copy because the first copy it's like, oh no, that was a false start. I got to start over. So I love the dry erase concept. That's yeah, now we could have an episode just about that because apparently I love dry erase and whiteboard is my favorite thing. So, all right, let's talk about the work that you do because um, one of the things I'm obsessed with is that people don't know they're in crisis until they're in crisis, and I'll explain that because I think you get it, but I want to make sure the audience does. I meet a lot of people who have slow simmering underlying issues and they never recognize it until a star player leaves or I'm seeing a lot of people going on disability now for anxiety and stress, and to me that's late lagging well follow up of a crisis. So how do people generally recognize that they need you to come in and help them with their performance?
Yeah, Jeff, I see it a little differently than how you describe it. And I think the results are exactly the same as you said, right? I think people are quite in tune to the crisis, but they don't take actions. So it's not like I just wrote a piece. I write on a weekly basis on Substack, and I wrote a piece called On Accidents. In an accident, you literally like leave the house, you're like, oh, I'm going to go to work, and then someone doesn't stop at a stop sign or something and it hits you, right? You didn't look at your calendar in the morning and said, oh, I'm going to have between 10 and 11:30 an accident where I like have to exchange information about the insurance. Like that's not the case, right? Most people. The difference is that actually I rarely, I would say almost like never, walked into a situation, we invited into a situation where people said, it was a sunny day, and then suddenly it rained like crazy, right? Most people see the clouds rolling into their life, into their business, into their relationships, into all things. But What's managing them is two things. One is fear. Okay, so fear was like, what? Okay, I see the clouds coming in,
Yeah.
but I'm scared to do something about it because sometimes I rather hold, they don't even say it, but the behavior is I rather hold on to something that is familiar to me and ride the storm versus actually dealing with the problem. So they see the crisis, they're there, and they kind of, I would say, convince themselves it's going to pass or convince them it's not as bad as they think, right? So they do see the crisis. The other thing is that that kind of ultimate optimism that people have, especially entrepreneurs, but everywhere, right? You rarely see someone, I mean, unless you're maybe an accountant or an attorney that sees the life in a very kind of dark way.
Yeah.
Most of us say, you know what, it's no big deal. Or you know what, I can survive it. And you know what, I can. And that's true. Most people can survive. It's amazing what people survive in life, right? Forget about
Yeah.
us. You and I live in Canada and the US. Our quote unquote problems are insignificant compared to other people dealing with problems in the world. But people survive, right? I'm committed to having an extraordinary life, not just surviving, right? So when do people, so to go back to your question, when do people invite me? They invite me in when it's unbearable.
Got it.
Sometimes, now, sometimes people have the vision, and I'm delighted when it happens. Uh, I'm delighted to see people saying, you know what, I actually don't have a crisis, but I know life is very flexible and things change and, and we're on this path where you don't know how it's going to end, right? So I'm going to, it's got, it's kind of like, it's like you're going to the dentist. You don't go to the dentist only when your tooth hurts because that would be a little too late and too expensive, right?
Yep.
Your dentist sends you a text or an email saying, hey, Jeff, come see us every 6 months, right? People don't operate this way. Some people do. Some people say to me, I want you to come in because I feel like there's a chance to look into what can be possible and what can be better. Okay. Most people call me when they are in with toothpick, yeah.
Yeah, it is funny how human beings, we tend to ignore the pain long enough that it has to be almost crisis. So let's talk about you coming in. What level are you usually working with in an organization? And actually, let's back up. What type of organization do you work with? Are you mainly Fortune 500? Do you work with midsize? What's that look like? And then who do you typically work with?
Yeah, so I don't work with Fortune 500 because the size of it is too big. Now, I've done some work one-on-one with some CEOs of very, very large companies. I'm not sure it's Fortune 500, but in the hundreds of millions of dollars. Uh, but most of the clients and the people, I would say, is people who generate between $3 to $20 million. And why is that? Because the middle ground is challenging, right? If you're an entrepreneur who just opened their coffee shop, right? You're so driven and hungry and clear about your vision, whether it's right or wrong, that's a different conversation. But when I speak to you and you just open your coffee shop or your business or bicycle shop, doesn't whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
You are so, and again, I'm giving business example, but also in relationships. When you just got married or just got into a serious relationship, you're so like you clear about the vision. I mean, fine, no problem. So the car is driving smoothly. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm interested in dealing with the car after 3 years on the road. So it's, and then you're not big enough to have that level of impact that I can provide. Because in the end of the day, even though we have a bunch of people on the team, I'm a sole proprietor. Like, so to make an impact on a Fortune 500 company, you need a team. You need like the McKinsey, kind of like dozens of consultants. But the people in the middle, the people who are doing 20, 15, $10 million revenues a year, they're the one who are relying on themselves. Yes, they listen to podcasts. Yes, they, they read books that are like, self-help or business books, but they're stuck in the middle. And that's why I think that's the one who needs the most amount of work. That's one group. The other group, people who did very well. They started and they hit a plateau or they hit a challenge. So, again, just the example we gave earlier, the coffee shop owner. It's great the first year. You make money and you lose money and you make money, but you look and you say, it's been a year. I'm not making as much money as I want, and I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
So it's really looking into the system versus looking at the individual. And that's kind of the people who I work with. So I would say, first of all, I work with C-level,
Yeah.
right? Upper middle management. And look, when I do the keynotes talks, I do the keynotes talk. I just came back from Kansas and I did a 20,000 people work, like a event. But it's like they put the little Madonna mic on me and then I do a talk for 20 to 45 minutes about what it means to be a top performer. What is the mindset of someone who excels, right? When I talk about athletes and relationships and business, but that's not the core of Zenith, which is more of the workshops.
I love that. Now, one thing I'm observing, there's no, if you're a professional athlete, there's no question of do I have a coach or not. It's like, which coach do I hire first and then who's the next? And I'm fascinated that business to an athlete, their sport is their life. To entrepreneurs, their business is their life. I find that the most elite people have a team of coaches, whereas the ones who struggle and you know whenever the economy goes up or down, they get laid off and they become a consultant, and then oh, I'm going back to a job. I think a lot of that is the mindset where they're not investing in themselves. Am I close to what you're experiencing?
Yes, very much so. I think there's two things. One is a culture.
Yeah,
Uh, so if you are hitting, a level above just playing a sport, like you said, the example athletes on the weekend with your friends, you understand it's the culture to have a coach. It's ridiculous to think. Not only that, if you could make it to the NBA or to you have numerous coaches. You
yeah,
have defense coach and offense coach and this coach, all of them, right? So it's part of the culture. I think so. That's one thing that in business and relationships too,
yeah,
people don't have as many acceptance to a coach. Okay. The other thing is that I think the coaching is a problematic word because everyone who goes through a midlife crisis go like, "Oh, I'm going to be a life coach."
yeah.
Okay, what the hell do you know about life? Because you went through a divorce or because you hit your 50s? I mean, what makes you a coach? So I think one of the challenges I see is that there's this uh, fear that I will be spending money on something that's not going to bring value. What I tell people, I said, first of all, look, like anything else in life, it's not a fit for everyone, right? So I highly recommend in relationships, in health and fitness, in business, get a coach, right?
Yeah.
But find the right coach. It's like dating. Like the fact that you met someone and she's extraordinary speaker, but she doesn't have is like she's too whatever her style is. Like, okay, she's an amazing person, but she's the wrong coach for you. So that's not a problem. I can't tell you how many examples I have of students say, oh, well, I don't want to spend $1,000 on coaches. But then they make one stupid mistake because they haven't spent the time thinking about it. Like, we all make mistakes. I make a million stupid mistakes, right? But
Yep.
they haven't done the process, the intellectual work to get, so they will burn through 20, 30, 40, 50, $100 million, mistakes because they haven't done the work, right? But when I tell them, look, it's going to cost, I'm not saying myself, I'm saying a coach in your life will cost you ten to $50,000 a year. They're like, oh, I don't want to spend the money on it, which makes no sense to me. But fine.
Well, and I think some people look at it as a cost. To me, I always look at it as an investment because, from my perspective, I know what I know, but I don't know what I don't know, and blind spots exist for a reason. And if I didn't have blind spots, I feel like that would be a blind spot. But I think when it comes to working with coaches, just having that second perspective, because again, I've met a lot of founders, and their employees say, "Oh, you're brilliant." AI tells them they're brilliant, and they're like, "Oh, I'm infallible." And it is funny because I've seen people who've built a very successful business, exited, and then the next three businesses all fail because they have this belief that they're infallible, and and then they come to other people confused, and it's like, well, Who was guiding you? Oh, I figured it out myself. No, you didn't.
And by the way, that's okay. If you put food in front of a kid that is not hungry, he or she are not going to eat.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter like, oh, I made you a burger and you love burgers. Like that. If they just, are not hungry, they're not going to eat. So I'm spending no time and effort on someone who's not hungry. So if you're someone who think that they're brilliant, and maybe you are, I'm not saying it in like a
yeah,
dismissive way, right? If you
yeah.
actually experience life with power, with flexibility, with success, good for you. You don't need me, right? If you want to go to the next level, so it can be very successful, but if you want to go to the next level or you're struggling, then you will need someone like me, whether it's me or someone else. That's not a question. But again, if your cup is full and you're having the best time of your life, then really, I'm really wishing you all the best. That's great. No problem.
I love that, and I think that's it is free will and free choice. I do see though, for me personally, when somebody tells me they have the same problem, by the fifth time, I'm like, okay, who are you getting to help you with this? Because if you just want to keep rehearsing your problem and telling me about it, I'm done listening. Because again, I don't do small talk, so
Yes. And I'll tell you, Jeff, I led workshops to thousands of people, literally. And for a while in the beginning, I had this session, I would say, right, with cracking the person who was the most difficult in the room. And I was like, if I just get that person cracked, I will crack the room. And sometimes it does happen, right?
yeah,
But I found that most people are inspiration junkies. They are looking for the next workshop or next book or the next podcast to be inspired, which is lovely, right? But inspiration are like sugar. They give you a really
yeah,
nice high for a very short period of time, but it's not sustainable. And like I said, very often it's some businesses are built on that, very successful. Gyms is one of the examples because expect you to go through like a New Year resolution.
yeah,
They overstaff the gym. They say, look, we have capacity of 300. We're going to register 500 people in January. The busiest times is January and the beginning of February, right? Knowing that by March and April, there'll be much less. And by June, the place is going to be empty, right?
yeah.
So and by the way, that's why they get you a 1 year contract. They don't let you get it because they understand that the inspiration got you to take those actions, right? So one of the things, the reason I created the Zenith Code, he said, I want to work with top performers. I want to work with people who are hungry to the next level. And I'm going to stop spending my time. I'm not against it, right? But I'm stop uh, spending my time on the people who are just sitting there judging, assessing, or looking for the next inspiration versus taking the actions. And that's why some people, I'm like, you know what? You actually don't want to do the work. So here's the money back. And I wish you all the best. But you're not ready. Like it's I'm committed to you having external results, but external results will require doing a lot of work in the beginning. Now there's momentum over time that you don't have to do as much work, but to roll the rock downhill, takes a lot of effort in the beginning, and then momentum will kick in.
I love that, and I think I'm obsessed with momentum because when I see people that are stuck, it's like the energy to start moving that person. They've got to really want it, otherwise, it's not. I can't help them, and I don't want to help them push that rock. So, well, let's talk about the workshops that you do. You call it the Zenith Code. What can someone expect coming into one of those? Because I think um, I want to help filter out the people that aren't going to take action. So I can already sense from you that your workshops, there's actually some work involved. Is that fair?
Yes, very much so. Because look, who the hell am I to tell you what to do, right? All I can
Yeah,
do is I can share my experience with being involved with many, many, many successful people who operate at the top of their abilities. And what I did is I kind of like concentrated what made them successful, whether in relationship successful, in health and fitness successful, and in business successful. And what I did is I created a very clean, simple path to operate in top performance. It's not easy, but it's simple, right?
Yeah.
So the workshops starts with a few hours. Someone will come to me and say, look, I want you to come and kind of wake up my team. I want you to spend 2 hours with us, wake them up, let them think differently. That's fine, right? It goes all the way to 2 days from that, because in 2 days, we really break down. I said, Jeff, what do you want to work on? Let's build a roadmap to getting to where you want. So that literally, what are the things that you're missing? What are the fundamental thing you're missing? What's the lack of understanding you have there? What are the tools you don't have, etc. That's a 2-day workshop, all the way to 3 months. Our kind of like our flagship program, which with the Zenith Clubhouse, is actually a 3 months program. Where not only that we design a very clean and clear roadmap, I walk you through it. Here's what I guarantee, and I guarantee literally, like, I'll give the money back. I have no problem. It's not about making money. Yes, I want to make money in it, but it's not about that. It's about making an impact. I guarantee a complete transformation of that area. And here's the funny thing about it. You might come and work on fitness and health, but your business is going to change, because we're developing muscles of top performers. Or you might work on relationship, and then your fitness is going to get into shape. So we guarantee it. So literally, and no one ever quits in the end. People quit in the first third of, no, people quit. We sometimes lose 10, 15%, and we say, here's the money back. Thank you so much. And people quit about up to a third in the process. And the reason why they quit, and again, I have no judgment here. So it's because they get really straight. And that's very good news for them. And for me too, because it's very frustrating to work with someone who doesn't succeed. And it's kind of like, it's big, keep on banging your head against the wall, right? The reason they quit is because they have a very honest and straight, sometimes for the first time in their lives, conversation with themselves about what will it take to be as successful in that area as they want to. And they say, you know what? I don't want it. I don't want to do the work, which is great news. It's not a bad thing. I just want you to be happy. Like, I don't, Jeff, if you're happy sitting on the couch and doing very little, that's great, as long as you're happy. And if you're happy at a particular level, but you're like, I'm enough. I'm just saying, let's take business. Like, my business generate $200,000 a year for me. And it's great, right? I'm happy. I'm enjoying my vacation. It's enough money for me. I don't have to work. Good for you. If you want to do a very large multi-million-dollar business, then that will require work. And some people don't want to do the work.
Well, I think that's, if I look at a lot of people, there's a percentage that will do the work, a percentage that will begrudge, but will do the work. And then there's a percentage who never want to even start the work. And I love that what I'm hearing is, if people are quitting about a third of the way in, they've reached the edge of their comfort zone, looked over at what's in front of them and said, nope, I'm backing away. And again, no judgment, because I think one of the things I'm hearing is you're giving them the clarity that they're happy where they are. They don't need to change.
Correct. And just to, again, it's not criticism, it's an observation.
Yeah.
Getting to the edge of your comfort zone is an illusion. Because the moment you spend time outside of your comfort zone for a little bit, it becomes your comfort zone. So think about like a circle, right? So as you grow your circle further and further, now you push out a little bit, right? And then you're like, oh, that's uncomfortable. That's uncomfortable. After a few days or weeks, you're like, this is comfortable for me. This is no brainer for me, right? Like, I can give you an example, a personal example. My daughter, who's just after college, she is traveling, backpacking Far East, right? And she flew, and in the beginning, every day was a big challenge for her. Now you should see her. She's like in Vietnam right now or something. Like, she's like walking around. She knows people by now. It's amazing, right? Why? Because she pushed to the uncomfort zone for a little bit, and it became comfortable. So I have no problem if you stop at the edge, but it's an illusion to think that it's a cliff.
Yeah.
Okay. And what I'm asking you, and my job is to challenge the thinking, the beliefs you have, the preconceptions you have, is to say, are you interested in living a life of fear?
Yeah.
If you want to live a life of fear, then it's fine. All right. But if you want to live a life of opportunities and growth, then our job is to push outside of comfort zone and then become comfortable for a little bit. I'm not saying keep on constantly, and then push a little bit again and keep on increasing that radius around you called comfort zone.
Well, I'm having visions of back in the day when humans believed that the Earth was flat and you'd fall off the edge. And I think I love my kids and I. We explore life through their video games. But if you look at a video game, there's a little character, and that character moves through the game, and all you see is what that character sees. Everything they've explored before doesn't cease to exist just because they've moved on the map. So I do think a lot of people, the comfort zone is very real to people who live in fear. To those of us who stepped beyond, I think, basic fear, I see it as that unknown, and it's like, ooh, let's go explore that next.
Exactly. And the example you gave is right on, because when people thought that the world is flat and they believed in it, and they collected evidence about it, right? Because they
Yeah,
sent a ship and never came back. It's like, oh, they probably fell off the cliff, off the edge. It gave them a particular amount of tools and
yeah.
experience of life, right? The moment someone went further out and came back and further out and kept on going out, right? When they realized the world is actually round, then the whole world of possibilities opened up, right? Oh, we
Yeah.
can go to India through the Atlantic Ocean, versus, which is not true in the end, they realized, but it doesn't matter. But there's all those excitement and innovation and opportunity. So no difference in your own life. If you live in preconceptions, consider that you live in a belief that you are thinking that the world is flat. And the moment you start to explore, then you'll be like, oh my gosh, look at what's possible for me, for my environment, for my family, for my wealth, whatever it is, because I expanded now beyond that.
I love that. And I'm fascinated by countries like Israel, where everybody serves 2 years in the military, countries like Australia, where it's more or less the given that your first year after you have your gap year and you go explore the world. I think everybody should experience something outside of, you know, right now we go from comfort of living with parents to all of a sudden we're on our own, and we try to recreate the old comfort zone. Your daughter, she will forever be changed because she's learned self-reliance, and there's a resilience that comes with travel. I think a lot of people would rather avoid that stretch moment, but once you've stretched, your daughter will never be able to go back to the way it was. I used to travel a lot, and now it's like I'm comfortable wherever I am. So
Yeah. And again, to connect to what we said earlier, running your life out of fear, is the issue here. Stretching is, look, here's a funny thing about it. If you don't want to stretch, that doesn't mean that your life is going to be better. Because life is stronger than all of us, right? Like you can literally, like we just experienced the earthquake in Colombia yesterday, right? You can be someone who's very scared and live in your house and don't want to go and travel the world and don't see, and then you're like sitting in your house and there's a 7.4, scale earthquake and everything collapsed around you. You can have someone who just get cancer and they like live it. So I look, my personal commitment is to keep on stretching until I'm done, right? And I'm never going to be done. I mean, I want to be fully used by the experience of life till the last drop. Whatever the last drop happened today or happens in 50 years from now. I'm 54 years old. So, I don't know what's going to be, but that's at least my commitment. Because, so again, I think the conversation, Jeff, you and I are having is about the illusion of safety, the
yes,
illusion of comfort. Because and you're absolutely right about, like, people just want to be comfortable. Look, college in the US, one of them, if you actually look into it, one of the reasons the prices are so insane, and they are insane, right, is because parents or colleges understood that parents wants to keep comfort their kids in a comfortable space, right?
yeah,
So where the growth of costs are not in the academia, the growth cost is in the administration. It's those like 7 kind of cafeterias, and it's
yeah,
like those really nice dorms, and it's the gym that in the top, private homes here you don't see gym, or private buildings
yeah,
you don't see gyms like that. So it's all that stuff, and then people complain, why am I spending $90,000 a year on college, which is absolutely insane, right? And again, my kids went to private school, so I'm one of those idiots who paid for that price. But but it's because people want to keep on protecting their kids from the illusion that keeping them comfortable will make them protected or better life, but that's not the case.
Wow, you just broke my brain because I've never thought about it. Now I can't stop seeing it. Literally, campuses recreate a little community. You got your conveniences, you've got your entertainment, you've got the world class libraries that nobody uses anymore. It's fascinating that,
Look, I'm a
true.
professor at NYU. I teach at a grad school at NYU, right? And it's a great school. But I can tell you, as a parent who my youngest is going to go to college now, is still in high school. I can tell you that on the tours and we saw top school. My kids went to very good schools, private schools. The emphasis, even when you tour a public one, it's about the amenities.
Yeah.
Rarely, yes, they say, yes, our top schools, we have this much Nobel Prize winners, but it's really about like, look at the beautiful dorms, and look at the, like you said, library that no one uses anymore. Because
Yeah.
the reason you went to Harvard 100 years ago is because 100 years ago, Harvard had one of the top libraries in the world.
Yeah.
The amount of knowledge locked in those rooms were extraordinary, not just the people, but you had access. Now with the internet, with our phones, you don't need that, right? But it's really about what it's really every time I do a college tour, I'm fascinated by they speak about the academia part,
Yeah.
because it's still college, but a big part of it is like, let's walk through this. And this is a gluten-free cafeteria. This is nuts-free cafeteria. This is a kosher. This is halal. I was like, are you for real?
Yeah.
And that's what we pay for.
That is fascinating. And of course, the costs are only going to expand as we get more multicultural and more global because, as you said, now we need different cafeteria types. Wow, that's I look back way back when I did my first campus tour, and yeah, it was about, oh, here's where our sports teams are. Here's, look at this lovely compound, the quad where everybody can sit, and nobody ever used all of those amenities, but in hindsight, yeah, we were paying for, a park with trees that nobody used. That's
Exactly.
interesting.
Yeah. So going back to like conversation about performance for us, it's like again, I'm not saying, but it's Jeff. It's again, all we did is we pointed to another illusion.
Yeah.
Because if you said to me, look, those campuses are the key to the happiness of your kids, I would say no problem. How much money do you need? I'll write a check, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't guarantee that. The opposite, actually. A lot of them are so spoiled and so scared of the unknown and learning new things that they don't. So all they do is collect evidence of what they already believe, which is the culture we live in right now. It's quite fascinating that business people, health people, but culturally, we are now spending hundreds of hours, thousands of hours, and thousands of dollars to collect evidence of things we already know. Versus saying, no, if I'm spending all this time and money, I want to expand. I want to learn things that I have not known before.
Yeah.
So, how many of your friends are strongly disagree with you in politics around politics? Probably not, because I can tell you how many people I meet that say, "Oh no, I don't talk to that person anymore. Their point of view is unacceptable." I'm like, no, this is the person to talk to, because that's when I strengthen. Yeah, I'm not saying I'm going to change my mind, but strengthening. If Jeff, you and
Yeah.
I don't agree on something, that give me that elasticity we spoke about, that like flexibility exercise that either will strengthen my belief because I spoke with Jeff and he has a very different point of view, but I feel that I put an argument that was stronger, more solid, or the other way, like, oh my mind, I opened it. It's great. I can now
Yeah.
listen to new things which I was so stuck in because I was born with it, or my culture told me that I should believe in it, or whatever it is.
I love that, and I think that's a lot of visionary entrepreneurs do this natively because we don't want to hang around with people who agree with us. For me personally, I want to hang out with people who challenge me. And as you said, if I'm confident in who I am, and you come and say, "But Jeff, I have a totally different worldview," great. Let's look at how both of us can expand from that. Whereas I think a lot of people get very binary and say, okay, if you don't vote the way I vote, we're not going to be friends. If you don't have the same religion, we're not going to be friends. And it's like your world shrinks with every one of those little decisions.
Exactly.
Now, you and I are going to have some fun. There will be future conversations. How can somebody connect with you? How do they find out what it's like to work with you and bring in your workshops and learn the Zenith code?
Yeah. So first of all, Jeff, my background is in real estate, right? So I was a real estate developer, like I said in the beginning, for 20 years, right? So when I did a complete pivot and focus on what I love, which is performance coaching, I said one of my commitments is to always be available. So to answer your question, like I make myself available, right? People send me LinkedIn messages, people send me Substack, Instagram, whatever it is, like they will reach out. I get back to everyone, right? So the first thing is like, now, am I available for everyone and for everything they need? Probably not, but I always get back to people. And one of the reasons we've done the podcast, we've done the book, is because I want different level of engagement. So if you just go Amazon, buy the book, and do the exercise yourself, right? That's kind of like the minimal. And then the next thing is how engaged you or the environment want to be. And if you reach out to me, we have, the Zenith Code, the Zenith Clubhouse, which is a 3 month program, and that's kind of, you got to get into it by invitation, right? It's not like you're just like, I want to be part of it. And it's a very, I would say, transformational, but quite intense 3 months when your life completely change. All the way to look, I'm doing a workshop in California or New York or whatever it is, like travel often, and then come and check it out. So, but I really make myself, I make sure that I'm available, and that's why in every social media, every LinkedIn, everything, so I'm always get back to people.
Awesome. Well, I do want to thank you. It is always, I've been meeting a lot of amazing people, and for some reason, the universe has decided I need to meet some amazing coaches. So thank you, because honestly, a lot of my guests, they've gotten to what the world told them success meant. They've climbed the mountain, they get to the top, and they're like, that's it. So I feel like you're the one that helps them. My people get to the first base camp or whatever it is, but I feel like you're the one that helps them summit. Is that a fair statement?
Yes. Yeah. That's why we called it Zenith Clubhouse, because Zenith is the peak, right?
Yeah.
And again, just to kind of emphasize, who am I to tell you what's your peak? I don't know what your peak is. Like, also it's very arrogant to be like, if you don't make $1 million a year, then you're a loser. No. Maybe $10,000 is great, amazing life for you. Like, I don't know if 1 million or 10,000 or 10 million or $100 million is your peak when it comes to business, or or whatever, like running a marathon for this much money, or not running a marathon at all. It's on my place. I want you to have a state of mind of a top performer. It is not about collecting evidence around you, like the biggest yacht or the six pack on the beach. Or I don't know what it is, right? All I want to
Yeah.
do is to have a state of mind with what does it take to remove that myth and the mystery about what it takes. Now you can even learn it. I have three people who have done my programs numerous times, and they said, I'm taking a break. And I'm like, good for you. It's like, I'm actually really happy in the level I hit. I was like, good, if that's your peak, then just, and then by the way, you slip down. It's not like a peak when you just rest, and then you can correct it because we taught you to learn the tools. But really, I don't care. I just want to be happy. I don't want you to sit on the couch and be like, I should have done. I don't want you to look back at your life if a bus hits you tomorrow and say, I could have done that. I should have done that. Like, that's the waste of a beautiful opportunity called life, right? I want you to be like, I've been fully used by what my passion is. Whatever your passion is.
I liken life to a tube of toothpaste. You want to get to the end with where everything's squeezed out. You've managed to maximize it. I want to thank you for taking time to hang out with me and to share your genius with my people. So thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.